Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Not Your Enemy Speak Out sessions. We're back up again, guys. Shannon, how you feeling today?
I'm good. It's Saturday. It's nice outside. It's great.
Oh, it feels great to be feeling to be Saturday. It feels
Yes.
good. Um, I'm so happy to be here today and with you ladies. On Not Your Enemy Speak Out sessions today, we have an incredible person with an incredible journey. I've always looked up to this young lady's journey and her work ethic. She is a creative and marketing genius. She wants us to look at her as the brainchild to Mark Zuckerberg and Rihanna. And anybody who says that, they know what they're doing. Um, Miss Sapphire Stubbs, she is a Temple University alum, a WHIP student-run radio station alum, and she's also one of our dearest friends. Sapphire, welcome to the Speak Out session. How are
Hi
you today?
guys. I'm so good. I'm so excited. This is like such a great start to my Saturday morning. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you like literally haven't aged a bit. You glowing, girl. Listen.
yeah.
So
Thank
the first
you.
question we ask everybody that comes on is, how has the current social climate impacted you?
I think that that's a really great question and heavy question. I think that like when we're talking social climate, are we talking really just the state of the pandemic, like the state of the world from 2020 until
Yeah,
now, or
We talking about the social climate. So it could be the pandemic, it could be the racial injustices, it could be whatever has
affected
socially
you.
impacted you.
okay, yeah. So it's up for my interpretation. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that when things started, the interesting thing is that my world shifted, and we can get into that story a little bit later. But my world shifted in like 2019. I was probably at the lowest of my adult life that I could have been. So when 2020 happened, it really was only up for me. like, and so I think that when everything happened, I had to make a choice with myself of, am I going to use this time of pause to better myself, or am I going to get even lower than I was? So I think I had to just be like, I can only go up. And so what the social climate, it yes, the short answer is yes, it has impacted me. But how it's impacted me has just been a turn of where we weren't ever putting ourselves, specifically as Black women, I think, like self-care, wellness, health, all those things, we looked at everyone else to take care of before ourselves. So this year was like discovering how to do that, and with the social climate of like how to do that. And then also it's affected me because I want to take advantage of, the world was flattened. Like, we were all experiencing the same thing. We were all angry about similar things. Now it felt like it was just flattened. So if it's flattened, then I'm gonna take my time to have the the confidence that I should, like other people that don't look like me have, and take those opportunities. And so I think that's how it's affected me. It's like, since we're in a flattened world, this is now the perfect time for people of color, Black folks, women, to just kind of get some of those things that we weren't going to get before.
um Sapphire, like I told you, I am so proud of you and impressed and inspired by you because what you did was something that what you spoke about now. It was something that I watched you do in college countless times. You took advantage of what was happening and you took advantage to take yourself to the next step. You had such self awareness and confidence to know that you can take it to the next level, regardless of what the disadvantage was, regardless of what the landscape was, even when the world was not flattened, you were doing what you had to do to get to that next level. So I appreciate your ability to strategize in that particular way because a lot of people can't. A lot of people fall
Yeah.
short when it's time to pull up. So
And I think that idea of like that self-awareness, I don't know if I ever knew that it was self-awareness until now. So thank you for even saying that. I think what my only thing has always been, I don't think you, as a person that is doing anything, you can ever think of yourself as like, I'm doing this and I haven't seen it, or I'm doing this or whatever. All I think about is like, you either got to do it scared or not at all.
mm,
So I'm always scared, but I'm always gonna
mm.
do it.
I appreciate you for just saying that because people, we just
Right.
had Taska on prior to this, and she was talking about that the things that you do when you're most fearful. Just imagine what you could do when you don't have that fear anymore. So the things that you've already accomplished, just imagine when you keep going and keep pushing because you're walking in your truth. Um, Now, as we mentioned, met everyone we all met here at college. I want to talk about how important your college experiences is, and how important is it still to the new batch of kids growing up.
Yeah, I think that so I have immigrant parents. They did not go to college. My mom is from Trinidad. My dad is from the Bahamas. Um, and none of my siblings went to college. My brother went to jail at 18. My sister passed. Well, she was a police officer, but she passed away at 30. So I was the first person to go to college in my family. And I mean, and this is in what 2006. So we're not talking like 90s. Like you know what I mean? Like so, the first person to go to college. And I think that I'm from York, Pennsylvania. There's Amish people close to us in Lancaster and a lot of farmland, no Caribbean folks basically, and not really many things to see. And I knew originally I wanted to go to an HBCU and got accepted in the Hampton. Everything was great. And then my mom was like, "Oh, I'm not paying for college. You have to pay for all that." But like just the week before I was about to leave. And so I was like, shit out of luck. Can I say that? I was out of luck, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I stayed home. All my friends were in college, and then luckily Temple gave me like a scholarship because my SAT scores were high, and so. But I didn't even have the best GPA, but I guess they needed to lift their thing or something. So I got in on like a little bit of a scholarship. My dad paid a little bit of it, and then I just like kind of tried to pay for the rest or get grants. And I came like a semester late, and so it was a blessing. Um, Even though I didn't know at the time, because I think that's why I fell into WHIP. Why? Because I didn't have that initial freshman motley crew, so I had to like do a little bit more digging of finding my place and finding my social settings. And I knew I had came to Temple to have a degree in radio. I had worked in at Baltimore's 92Q as like an intern, and then when they introduced me to like some of the Philly radio people, and then I was like, okay, this is just what I'm going to go to school for because I didn't know any other career. I was just like, I like going to the radio station. But I know I don't want to have something like regular. And so I think college was just so important because I came to Philly. I didn't have any city experience. I and if you're gonna come up in anywhere, and we all came of age between like that, you're a kid. From 18 to 25, I feel like you're a kid. So in any place to grow up is Philly. That tenacity, like I always say, Philly just makes you different. Like there's no place like growing up in Philly. I feel like even though like I love New York, I'm here now, but that it's just gritty. Like it's just like you have to figure out everything just seems so accessible. And because you're in a city, but the cost of living is cheaper, I feel like but you're on the East Coast. I feel like you get to do some things because you don't need much money to kind of discover what you want to do. So I always say that like Philly made me, and I would not be who I am and have like that, like again, tenacity, because I can't think of another word, but that like that grind if I had landed anywhere else, HBCU or not, because and then you get like I think what makes me excited or what I always look back at is you get a bit of an HBCU experience, but you also get because if you got 40,000 kids and 10,000 of them are black, you are at a small HBCU. So I always like felt like I had like the best of both worlds. And then I pledged while I was in school, like later on, and even being in a sorority, I think that like I'm not one to talk about it much, but I do know that alone, like just having to, I don't think there's for kids now in college, I think that there's few times where you put yourself in like a strenuous situation. So I think that actually this year of the struggle they're having is going to give them they're going to come out with some really, really good ideas and create things we've never seen. But I do think that like between starting with, or like, we're not, well, we didn't start it, but like transitioning into like the digital, it just felt like we were building something. And I think I got to feel like I was building something twice in college. And it really has like, empowered me to keep those same like notions in mind of like if you don't have all the pieces, find the pieces.
Wow. Do you um And for those who don't know what we're talking about, WHIP, Simple Student, our radio station, is where we all got together and really honed these skill sets. I think we are doing the same things now that we were doing then. And had no idea that we were going to continue walking into this space. Now understanding that, you are from immigrant parents, you grew up in Lancaster, that's why that college experience was so important to you. With people, with how the world is set up, you just spoke about digital, and people can get their YouTube universities and just they don't really even need to get these degrees to make this money, to make this kind of money, even if we got these degrees and still not making the money that we thought that we would. Do you think now for, young adults coming up, the college experience is as important, especially for Black Americans, knowing that or Black immigrants, knowing that sometimes we go to college and amass huge amounts of debt that we can barely get out of? I'm still struggling with that. Do you think that the college experience is still worth it?
I think that I've always been, even when I was in school, because of just my family and stuff, I never actually thought, I don't think like college is so dependent on your career. I think always college and your secondary education is based on the individual. I am not an entrepreneur. I don't have an entrepreneurial like spirit. I need a little bit of structure around me. Like I can take off at a startup, but I'm not going to do the startup. So like and it just won't be me. You know what I mean? Where it's just college might never be a person's thing. Am I going to tell somebody that really wants to, what I think college does do for young people is that it makes you stick to something for 4 years. And that's really what I think it does. So I think that apprenticeship, it's any like vocational schooling, you need that discipline as a teenager going into your early adult life to stick to something. I don't care if you intern at freaking whatever, a label or something, or like if you want to go into something crazy for 4 years, 2 years doing it, and then 2 other years being an assistant, getting some odd jobs, but you need to stick to one thing for 4 years. It just teaches you something that you don't have to replicate as you go through your like trajectory, your career trajectory. But I think whatever you choose, you do what's smart for you. I think that if you know that you don't want to do anything that a college degree offers, then it is a waste of money. But I think you still should choose if you're a hairdresser and you know you have a love for that, you need to be under somebody and be going to school for the same time so you can get reared. As I think I never knew the importance of that until my 30s of you don't even know what you're doing the first year. You don't know what you're doing in anything until you've gone through each season of something. And I think that's so important. Until you know in winter, spring, summer, and fall what a place is like, you don't know how to do anything because things change per season. Like it's just natural in life. So if you don't know what you're doing until year one, you need year two just to figure out what you want to do. And so that's what college sets up for us. And I never knew that until I got older.
There we go. That was like a moment. That was a gem. So I will say that when like your spirit, right? Like when you come into a room, you exude the spirit. And I think even when you came to WHIP, like you were like, I'm taking over, like I got, you know what I mean? But you come with, you're such a joyful spirit. So when you come into the room, you kind of set the tone. And that's all flowers. And I always admire that. Even though I was a GM, I was like, this, I always saw the team that I had the year that I was a GM. All y'all were like amazing. Like
thank you. But I think we all needed like a leader though. Like I think I'm always looking for people to be my mentor, people to be under. And I was under you all the time. I was like, I want to take what you call, but if I wasn't under nobody, I was under you. So you know what I mean? I just was like, you know what I mean? I'm here to learn, and that's what I always want to do. So I think that, thank you so much. But I mean, I think that like that, you're only as good as your mentors and your leaders around you.
Oh my, Sapphire, this was again exemplifying what I'm talking about. But so I feel like you always have the tenacity, even like when we continued the radio station, you did the on-air talents, you did the marketing, you set up events and things of that nature. I felt like you always were reinventing yourself, or even expanding yourself to grow and to learn more. So do you feel like you continue to do that, even after college?
I do. I always tell Jared every once in a while, like when it's been a while and we need to lift up, like we're phoenixes. and we continue to burn to the ashes and rise again. And the thing is, if anything, you don't ever cross us, because you will see us again in another life, in another version of what we're doing. You know what I mean? And I think that like I always find my community and my tribe. As long as I have and I get a tribe anywhere. So as long as my tribe is good wherever I'm going, that's what I stick to. I don't necessarily um stick to just like this certain like path of things. I think that the radio station really taught us that, and just like what we came there for. Because I was like, I'm gonna be an on-air talent, to like, oh, I don't like being on the mic. Like, let me like do programming. I like to set up processes. Like, and so I think that taught me that was just to be pretty malleable in what I can do. So I think that or I feel that everyone should kind of be that way if they can. I think we're talking about like, if the decisions you make when you're that stuck to me, like, or that kind of like is heavy on me, because when I always, especially during this time when we say like what decisions you make when you're fearful, think about what you make when you won't. You should always be fearful a little bit. Why are you doing things that don't scare you? If you didn't done something that don't scare you for more than 4 years, switch it up. You know what I mean? Like, you should be doing things that scare you. You should always have a little bit of, because fear is something that they make scary movies for a reason. It's because fear intrigues us. So if you're fearful of it, you're intrigued by it. So go to do those things. Like, I'm always like, I know that I'm like, okay, like I say, like, do it, but do it scared. It's okay, but I'm always do it. But if I'm a little bit scared, then that means I'm on the right path. If I'm chilling with it, then it's not speaking to me no more. And so that's how I think I envision, or how I think I keep reinventing myself, because I just go to where the scaries are.
Yeah. And you go where your passions are. Talk to me about
Yeah.
marketing and entertainment. Like, where did that love for those things come from? I know you speak about your radio past, but where did that come from? Because you was always into the music, like you knew it was hot coming out.
Yeah. Oh, I love this question, because I think that originally I just was like, I cannot be in York, Pennsylvania. Like, I have to get out. I was like, and the only thing I could go, like, what do I know? Oh, radio station. So I went to the internship like my senior year, because they let us, like, when you can kind of go off and do something if you want, like, you're in some high schools. So let's go off, and I was at the radio station. I was like, oh, I like this, and like, I just kind of had some kind of connection to it that I didn't really know. So I do that. I get an internship at Def Jam and have that during my college years, and I feel really connected to that. Then I kind of get like, not like between laid off yet, but also just like, my boss was like, so here's the thing, I'm either going to give you this full-time job, or you need to like go finish your degree, because if I give you this full-time job, you cannot do it and be in school. And I was like, in the office like a couple of days, and I was like, and she just had a real talk. I don't think you're going to be able to really do this if you want to finish your degree. And I was like, okay, then I'm just going to finish my degree. They were downsizing some things anyway. And then I left that. Still not really. I knew that like I always loved music. It's just something that speaks to me on like a different level. Like, I will dissect music always, and I will go do crazy things. Like, I'll play a song all day, just one song, because the cadence calms me. So like, and people are like, I can't listen to a song more than twice back to back. I will run that thing back 50, 60 times, and Jerry, you know that. So like, I think that like, so all this time I never knew, like, I ended up going into marketing, and I knew that I was a STEM kid, so I like science and math. Marketing is science and math, so it's like the perfect thing. Now, at the time when I was in school, I was like doing everything for like music business, that kind of communications lane. And I didn't really know what that meant. But when I got into marketing, I was like, oh, these are two things I love. It's like math, and then it's like the psychology of people and how they interact with stuff. So this might be the shit I'm doing for the rest of like for my life. So then I did that at an agency, went back to Temple to work for marketing for them, and really just realized, oh, I like marketing, because I was doing it for my school. I got to do so many cool things. And because the woman there, who was like our CMO, or like head of like marketing, really just liked me, and she let me kind of do all the like things I wanted to, all the partnerships. So I did this partnership with BuzzFeed around that time, and it really kind of, we had like a case study. I was like, you can Google my name now. It felt good. And then I had applied to Complex a million times applied after this, and then of course got the job right away because like it was all because and interviewing at like BuzzFeed at the same time. And so got this job at Complex and was like, I'm finally in New York. I never thought I would be in New York this way. And I got and like I'm getting all this like culture and all these things in publishing. I hadn't worked in publishing, it was really nice. I leave Complex to go to WME or IMG. It's like it's an agency, but it's like for agents, like not on the marketing side. But I was still doing marketing, and it clicked, and I was like, yo, I like this. Like what my because I have to change now from wanting to be the best person to ever do marketing because after like you get out of your 20s, it's like I don't need to be the best at something. There's always gonna be somebody better. Right. So if I'm not the best, what do I do this for? Because I have to find a passion that aligns with what I'm doing. Like, because then I won't. How am I going to do this for the rest of my life if it's not to get to? Once you get over destination syndrome of like I can get here, I can get here. You have to find what connects to you. So 2-3 years ago, it just clicked. I was like, oh, okay, I'm good at marketing, right? I know that's something I'm good at. I want to do this to push Black and Brown voices in an artistic way. So be that music, an expression of art through music, an expression of art through writing, because writing is still art, like artistic, or whether that be creatives in like the publishing world, videographers, creative directors, designers, any artist. But if I can connect it to Black and Brown people, then that is what I'm going to use. I like to be the facilitator of that, and I don't have that artistic like lens for myself. So why don't I use what I do best and help that? So in anything I do and anywhere I go, that is the nucleus of why I choose to do it now, and that's how I came to my like passions and why it's marketing, why it's creative, publishing, all those things. It's because of that STEM, that science and math connection, and then to empower Black and Brown voices.
Wow. So listening to you and kind of hearing your journey professionally, how you've kind of just, reached destination after destination. Obviously, being you're a Black woman, we have been working for some years now. Can you talk about your experiences of being a Black woman in the corporate workspace? Because I'm sure you have plenty.
Yeah. So this is a great time to talk about at my at a 2019 at an employer that I was at during that time. I had a really racist boss, and it was a woman. And when I say like racist, there's like things of like that we go through as Black women of like, can I touch your hair, or saying little things like that. But I mean, it started to get in the harassment level. Like she would say weird things every time it was just her and I, and our weekly one-on-ones. Other people started to complain about it. She started to kind of like set my position up for me to fail. Yeah. And so I have to sneeze. I got them out. So so the so I had that happen at another scenario. So I knew to like, as soon as it starts to happen, let me just like check in with HR. I keep checking in with HR just like, I want this on record, but I don't want this to be taken to a higher level. Long story short, it goes, other people start complaining about her too. Other Black women are leaving because of her as well. And it gets to the point where we're going to like now open a case up. Can we use your like stories and all of the things that you've recorded? I say yeah, because it's about to be a case. Let's go. You know what I mean? Not the best thing to do. It turned into only my testimony in this case, of course, because they need somebody who has like, and I've recorded everything. And when I say I've recorded everything, I have voice recordings from our one-on-ones because it was getting that scary. And I was like, I'm just gonna like, this is my livelihood. Like I'm gonna lose my job or something, like because I'm gonna fail. And it was just that fear of every day going into work feeling like you're going to war. And you just don't know what to do. And I'm thinking like, because now I'm like, I made it to this like level of like 6 figures, like we always talk about. And I was like, is this what comes with it? Like we don't know. We're like, I don't know anybody who has gotten to like 6 figures as a Black woman. I don't know many, right? And not in this field. I know them, they might have gone into finance or something else or a different path. So I'm like, because I was never so connected to that, I was like, maybe this is like my punishment. You just start thinking it's all you. And the case comes up, it gets sticky. I get demoted. I get fired. So and I don't know what made me know this, but before I was when it was getting weird, I was like, I probably need to talk to somebody legally.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do, but like, let me just like, you know what I mean? Let me just go for more. I always, like I said, I like more information. About maybe only 6 months into that job, I started calling like lawyers. One I really liked, he was straight to the point. He was like, well, it's hard to prove like harassment case based on like sex or race or something like that. So give me a call back when they fire you. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. Like I'm gonna get fired. Like I don't like this. And then we end up as soon as I got laid off or let go, they let me and her go. So now I'm feeling defeated because I'm like, yo, they let the person go that I would even say something about. I don't know what to do. Like now they just like they got me. And I called my lawyer. He was like, come in the office, and we used that to start a case and to negotiate my severance, because it was like, do you want to? I think like one thing that I think is very important is once you've gone through harassment, what do you want to do? Do
Right.
you want to make sure you're okay? Or do you want to call those people out? She's already fired. So can I call them out? No. But sometimes what we do as Black women is that we let stupid people inform our decisions. And then stupid people only want you to, whether they're racist, sexist, whatever it is, they want you to react on emotion alone because they are intimidated by you, or they are, and not even intimidated, they just, you know what I mean, there's just every notion that we know society gives. So whatever societal factors go into the space, I'll say that you're like, I don't even, it's just you just are like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? So you just start to think it's all you. So so I was like, what do I want? And what I wanted was, I want to be okay for a year. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going to happen. Now, this is January of 2020. And if I can use this to negotiate my severance, let's do it. I got a sizable severance. And I'm gonna tell you, and that's why you have lawyers do things for you, and that's why you kind of like I pulled some money because I knew that it was going to be a little bit more expensive for him to handle it and not to just seek legal advice. That I was like, let's do it. Let me go to my tribe. We'll figure this out. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have been okay for 2020. And what he negotiated was amazing, but that was because I just trusted to know more information. So never get so cocky that you don't ask for more information, you don't seek it. And I think that like as Black women, we get a little bit like I said, jaded on, one, I can't ask anybody else for help. Yes, you can. You're a woman. And I'm sorry, but I didn't make the rules. Society made it a patriarchal system. I didn't. So if I need help from a man, if I need help from someone that has more privilege than me, you cannot because if that was the case, civil rights would have just been only Black folks, and how would that have helped? So I think that like, I always think about like, humble yourself to kind of figure out what you want and to figure out what that needs. And that's a part of growing up. If your pride won't have you asking questions, if your pride will only have you going to other Black people when there are other people that are advocates, people that can help, then you gotta start with you. And so yeah, that is the way to talk about my biggest thing as a Black woman. Yeah.
Do you want to know the crazy thing that I'm listening to you? And like, when this comes on YouTube, y'all gonna see my faces, but I'm listening to you, and the amount of consistency or similarities,
oh yeah,
certain things you said is scary, because you're like, how we in different cities, different states, different businesses, but yet have experienced the same thing. And unlike your situation, when I had to consult legal because there was some shady things going on with positions and severances and things of that nature, I was told, and it was great, like she was great, but it was just like a conversation. I was told, well, you got to have apples to apples. You can't compare apples to oranges. And because my role was very singular, I had nothing to compare it to.
And so, that's but I think that, I'm so, not to cut you off, but I think that like one thing I think that as Black women that we share and that we should just kind of vocalize and feel fearless with is that, here's the thing. One, we're not Black men. I don't know how Black men feel when they go outside. I don't know that feeling of feeling hunted because we're still women. You know what I mean? Like I had a situation happen where I was with some of like Temple people, Gianni, around the corner during the summertime during the protest in New York. And when I tell you that 8 officers jumped out of unmarked cars, ran down on four of us with a gun out, like, you know what I mean, like trying to intimidate people. They could care less about me and Zena, could care less about me and the other woman that was there. Only cared about those two men and intimidated them. I don't know that experience, and it shocked the hell out of me. But what I do know is that what Black men feel going out, and that similarness that happens everywhere around the country, maybe even around the world, is for Black women how we feel at work. We're already women, and then we are already Black. And we are starting from a place, if we just think systemically, that we were working prior to white women working. We were slaves, we were maids. Before it was legal for women to work, we were working because we weren't considered human. So if that's the case, we know we've been prepped to work harder than people in a place where we're not getting promoted. That in turn internalizes a cyclical thing of feeling like you have imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not enough, and people overlooking you when you're overqualified. So if that's the case, we're all going to feel that from female perspectives, no matter what, because any woman that wasn't working before we were working, which is nobody, you know what I mean, in the States, is already going to feel like they're behind. Just systemically, it's passed down. We were working. That was imagery that everyone has saw. So, like, that's a shared experience that we all have, similar, that Black men don't know as much because it's still men on men. They have their own things, but it's a little bit different. Something that, like, I think when we like want to respect each other and go forward, Black women, we can't assume that we know what it's like when you're, and we getting mad, we're antagonizing officers and stuff. Just calm down a little bit, because I don't know what it feels to be emasculated. I don't know what that feels like. But one thing that Black men have to give Black women is that when we're talking about work, it is not you're being sensitive. It is not, I don't know what you're talking about. It is the thing that Black women feel across the board.
Right.
And because it's systemic. That's the point of it.
How do we empower young Black women going into the workforce? Like, how do we empower them because the Black woman experience in corporate America, is driving the narrative, is driving the story, it's creating the need for these products out here. Like, that falls once again on the backs of a lot of Black women. So how do we empower young women to continue to go into the workforce and know these skills and these ideas that you have?
I think for me, I won't always, I think it's okay sometimes to say we don't know the answer, but I think where I like to start is, for starters, when I said, what did I want, right? When I was like coming into this thing, I want to be okay. The only way that I can be okay and not feel jaded by this experience is if I'm okay. And so I was very okay. The publisher, the job that I got, that I have now, I got equity in that company. Like, I own part of a publishing company because I made sure I was so okay that I could afford to negotiate my salary, where don't pay me that much if you can pay me equity. Like, word to Beyonce. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I wanted, so I could be okay and then empower other Black women. You can, and that is just this world. We need everybody at every step. So I think, one, know your purpose. And we should start empowering younger women to know your purpose and where you fit in the piece. Everybody don't got to be a CEO. Everybody don't got to be an entrepreneur. Know your place. Know your ministry is what I used to say, when the protests were going on. I'm not a frontline protester, but you know what I did? Everyone I know that was protesting, I made them wellness packs so that when they got home, they could have their tea tree oil, some Epsom salt, some eucalyptus. Everybody could feel good and replenish their souls before they went out the next day. That's what I did. I know my ministry, and all those people are needed. So empower Black women to know that what you're like, find a purpose in where you are, right? I knew that I cannot be this leader for Black women in my way if I didn't have the means that I see white men having. You know what I mean? So I took a job where I don't have to be in an office. Whether we come back or not to offices, I don't have to be. So how can I have more? And then I took a job at a lower company with a higher title, so that I could grow it, believe. And I think that idea of believing in yourself too, so that I can start building my team. We want to always be somewhere. I was when I got off of that, I need to be at Complex, I need to be at BET, I need to be at, I don't need to, I don't have entrepreneurial spirit, like I keep saying. I don't need to start my own company. But what are some people? Let me look to the people empowering me instead of these names, because guess what? If we keep saying Black people, Black culture is culture, then make the freaking culture where you're going. You stop looking for these names to validate you. And by names, I don't mean everybody start their own stuff. I mean plug into somebody that values you. My boss is a LGBT, is a lesbian woman, white woman, and it has been the best boss. Was I jaded by my last boss, who was also a white woman, and said I'm no longer working for white women? I think that is something that I talk to all the women that I'm working with now that I've empowered, because my main thing was like, once I'm okay, I'm just about to put some black women on. So I identified two to start with. And then from there, I was like, this is what we gonna do. And when I tell you I have to talk to them every day about, or like not every day, but I'm being dramatic, but maybe like once a month, about, do not let a racist person stop your check or stop you from your trajectory. You're gonna let stupid people stop you from, and I have to keep saying it. Like, your pride doesn't do anything for you. Ego doesn't do anything for you. Because as people were getting dragged out of stuff, hosed down, you think they were like, man, I don't look cool being shook up. No. So like, if people before had to physically be humiliated and all those things, you can take 1 or 2 days of just being like emotionally humiliated. It's okay. And we learn that as we get older too. So I think that this idea of like always telling black women like, well, if they don't respect you, you can leave. Okay, but does that help you? Like, did that get you further? So let's start to like pause and figure out what you want, and let's kind of go from there. Let's let what you want guide you and what's the best, not stupid people guiding you to make an emotional and quick decision. And just like really having a breath. And I always tell any younger woman that talks to me, let's slow down. What do you want to get done? And where do we want to go with it or whatever? Let's stop. Don't make no decision quick unless you absolutely have to. People have always rushed black people to make decisions quick. So if you have one thing in this world going forward, we have time. Ain't nobody doing nothing. Take your time to make a decision. Quick decisions often aren't the most strategic.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask for more money. Worst they can say is no.
Here's the thing too. Always ask for more money.
Yes,
Like, they're not
always more
like,
money
so
on the
so
table.
yeah. I don't even like to say don't be afraid. Ask for more money. Don't ask around at what another person makes either. Like, there's Glassdoor. There's things to look up and do the research yourself. The onus. This is the other thing too. You are responsible for your salary. You are responsible for your job. It is not HR's responsibility to take care of you. I think the one thing that we also have to tell younger black women is that autonomy is chosen. Like, if you want autonomy in your job, it starts with you, because it's not your manager's job to look out for you. They're a human being too. Let's start to look at everybody like people, and not like, if you want to have a voice as a black woman, to have a voice like what you call, then own your voice. You should always ask for more money. I don't care if you're asking for $1,000 more a year. Try it out. You will be scared until you try it.
Right.
So next job, because like, and I don't think that, like, and I always say, like, if you're at the beginning of your career, you don't have as much bargaining power as where you get to me and you are, Shannon. But at the minimum, you should be asking for, if you don't feel comfortable, they say that this is the cap, ask for more vacation time. Ask for a stipend for something. Like, there's things you can barter with. Ask for working from home for a day, but start that bartering process at the beginning of your career, so that you know how to ask for more money at the end of at that, like, towards the middle of your career, once you get a little tenure.
So,
but I love that you said that.
Yeah, because that's what I tell everybody. So speaking about continue to speak about all your work experience, what has been the project that has meant the most to you in your career?
I mean, I think the busing one was pretty big because it changed my life. But I think what meant the most, the most to me is like kind of the stuff I'm working on now. Just because I think once I found my purpose, um, it means more. So I think like with this magazine, um, I really think that that's a good question, and I feel like I'm all over the place with it. But if I had to choose um, one project, actually, if I had to choose one project, I think it would be my last job that meant the most. It was, I was responsible for the marketing behind all the podcasts with different partners, and one of my partners was Mass Appeal. And so Mass Appeal, they're like Nas is like studio, his like creative agency kind of people. And one of the first podcasts we were doing was this podcast on Freaknik. And so I was like, oh, this is a cool audio like story. And though I didn't necessarily agree with all the way that the story was coming together and the product of the art itself, of the podcast itself, it was my first time being like, I don't care about that. I'm gonna take this because I can own this and do exactly what I want. We did a release party that was amazing. The promo that I did for it was so good. It was my first time kind of producing and directing like a social series. I always used to say I'm not creative, and we got we had to go out to LA for like during Grammy weekend and try to get as many interviews as we could around the time. We were supposed to go get Lil Jon, all these people. We ended up only getting, I think maybe two or three, and one of the people was Too Short, but we were at Too Short's, and he was like a big voice in Freaknik, and we get to go to a studio. So we're gonna like be there for like a couple hours and like set this up to get video. Once I knew that he was in it, we literally on the fly was like, okay, this is gonna be my social series. So I'm gonna get like I had him talking for 45 minutes, made up I think a 6-part series just with him, off of like 45 minutes of audio. Half was for the actual podcast, the other half I used in video and then in post production and stuff. So I think that like it just gave me a chance to believe in my own, like what I feel and the direction to go, like believe in my own voice. So that was probably the most important.
You said you felt as though you weren't creative, but like I look at you and all I
Right.
see is creativity.
I don't know, because I just think that like I was always like, oh, creatives like they have a talent in that, you know what I mean? And because I'm not like a singer, because I'm not a designer, I always thought that there was no creative juices there, and that was the first time I was like, oh, I am creative.
Where do you what speaking of creativity, when and speaking of your social media and the campaigns that you have put across and just your take on style, like do you get that aesthetic from? Because I love when I see something that you post on Instagram or your social media or your Instagram stories and the way that you package it together, because sometimes I overanalyze a look or
Yeah.
the way that the mood behind it. So what inspires that style and aesthetic for you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because now that I feel that like I'm connected more to my creativity and it gets me excited, I'm like, it's just sometimes it's just a feeling. Like like if I feel like earthy, then I'm gonna post like everything that I like that just made me smile, that was brown or tan or nude. I'm just gonna post it one day. But I think that like what I do now is I look for things that I want to replicate, and I use the replication as a guide, but then what's comfortable for me. So when I'm taking pictures or when I have a style, like I love Rihanna's mullet, but what am I going to look good as a normal person with a mullet? Probably not in my everyday. But what I can do is try this wig out that has a little bit of instead of before I get something, and see if I can do a little bit of a mullet kind of style myself. And so what works for me, because I don't need to go all the way there, but I think you find your voice and your comfort level. And the other thing that inspires me is I love just cool women. I love swaggy women. And to me, a swaggy woman is just a person who inherently is themselves, like through and through. So I like Rihanna because I'm obsessed with her, but she also seems like she's thoroughly herself. I like Tracy Ellis Ross because she like that dichotomy of being super silly, but being, you know what I mean, just themselves. I like Haley Williams from Paramore because she is just the coolest person. But I also like Melina, who was the director of Queen and Slim, because she literally is we society wouldn't say she's the prettiest woman, but she is one of the coolest women. She always is herself. She has this like way of being in between like masculine and femininity, like energy. And I think that like I look for coolness across all the spectrum of colors, of ages, you know what I mean? Like, because I also think that like Helen Mirren is one of the swaggiest people, because at 70, however old she is, she exudes sexiness. But then we could say that like Jill Scott is also the coolest woman, because she literally is her through and through. Like she's sexy, she's beautiful, and she's always her in what she does. So I always look for that. And I think there's like men that are swaggy too, but we give them that. It comes from men. So I like to figure out women and then be inspired by them. So I'll look through their Instagram and do stuff, and then like one thing on my social is this: on Fridays we tennis. I started at a tennis magazine and like lifestyle and culture. And I think what inspired me to do that was like, what would make me interested in this? Like if I wasn't interested at all. I've always been a peripheral fan of tennis. My parents played, but I wasn't. But I've always liked some of the athletes and stuff. Like I love Sloane Stevens. I love Serena Williams. Like you know what I mean. I've followed them outside of being like a diehard tennis fan. So I was like, how could I bring that into my world in a place that people can identify it with? So aesthetics, culture, beauty, all those things that we think about, let me have a way to bring that in. I'm not going to just like, I could just drop it in with like other images that still speak to me, but I was like, I need a thing to like really know that this is like tennis, to see that tennis was always around. We just never noticed it. And so that's how I got to On Fridays We Tennis, because all these images I take from anywhere from Smino holding some Wilson rackets to a beautiful picture in like L of Sloane Stevens to just someone wearing some Air Force or some Jordan 1s on a tennis court. We've always been inspired by tennis, by the culture, by the aesthetics. We just didn't know we were.
Right. Right. So honestly, there's so many things to say. I'm sorry. I'm flabbergasted. But anyway, so tell us what's next. What's next for you? What's going on? What's happening? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that what's next for me is I've taken this time, like I was like saying in the beginning, to heal from the inside out. So as my knee is literally healing, just had knee surgery. I was like, and during this time too, I was earlier in 2020, I was like diagnosed. I was like mildly depressed, and it's my first time really saying it out loud. So that's why I stumbled over it. And I think that from there, I always believed in therapy. I had been in therapy before, but there's just like um therapy thing in therapy that every like 7 years your like something to your intelligence changes, every 11 years your consciousness changes, and every 15 years your whole life changes. And that makes sense, right? And I think that in my new state of consciousness, being like on the verge of like this, 32 into 33, I just was like, I'm I'm wanting more, and I haven't gone through therapy in this way. And I think I have a therapist I talk to weekly, and I knew that I wanted um, a woman of color. And so, did the research to do that. I think, like I said, the onus and autonomy is always on the individual. Um, and that could even mean that it's on you to ask for help. I'm not saying you have to figure everything out yourself, because as Black women, we feel like we have to do that. But it's on you to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. We got to get rid of the stigma around that. And so, I think as I heal from the inside out, I've learned things about what I could do better romantically, what I could do better with professionally, what I could do better from a wellness and mental state for me, and what all those things even mean. And so I think for me, I want to, what's next is having a real balance of and trying romantically with relationships and with my job. I have a whole different life now. I don't have to be in an office anywhere. So what does that mean for me, and the things I can learn, the places I can go, and how I interact with the people um I'm like attracted to or something. And I think I want to say it this way, because why do we always think what's next is like something professionally? I can't just like what I'm doing and it's scaring me. It can be romantic too, especially for Black women. We
Wow.
put all this time, effort, and work into work, and we don't think that we should put time, effort into a relationship. What?
Better preach
That's
on this
crazy.
podcast.
Yeah, like that's crazy. So what's next for me is really scrimmaging in my romantic life, and balancing that with being sound in my career. Because how can I do those two things? Because you can't work on everything at the same time. And now that I'm coming into my own, I'm the director of marketing for Racket Magazine, but that comes with like, it's a startup, so it comes with like building the brand out, and more traveling that I didn't even know. I have to go to Madrid next month because that's just where they play tennis.
Ooh.
And so it's really nice. But I mean, I've never been in these places. I'd be like, what country, what city is it in? I don't know. And so, but I'm kind of sounding that. I feel comfortable now finally. Like that's what your 30s are for. Like we're finally getting into what we actually wanted to do. So because I'm sounding that, work scares me every day. So that's nice, being on calls with these different like entities and clients and stuff. But what I can work on is something romantically at this moment where I don't have to work as hard in my job anymore. You work hard in your 20s so you can get to these, like, if you're a good director, the job of being a director is to manage your people and make sure they feel empowered. To make, you know what I mean, that's a core part of that. To make sure you're still courting people. You should court the people you hire. You should court your the people above you. So as I'm just getting used to doing that more so than actual execution work and stuff, let me work on my personal. So I wanna date, I wanna get out and really date and be vulnerable and be emotionally open. So I think that's what that, because there's a difference of dating and then being emotionally available. So
There is.
yeah, so what I've noticed is that I've dated for a long time, but I ain't been vulnerable with people. I'm like, until you spill all your beans, I don't say nothing. I'm like, how is that gonna work? So so what's next for me is becoming holistic and balancing my personal, romantic, and professional relationships.
We can't wait to see this. Anything that you do, you're going to be so intentional with it,
Yeah.
and have this
Thank
level
you.
of intention behind it and purpose. So I'm can't wait to see this next journey that you embark on, and how luscious your love life will continue to grow. Because it sounds like it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
'Cause
Thank you.
you knock
And I
everything
think
out the
that, like,
park.
yeah, thanks. And also, like, we don't ever talk about it. I just wanted to say that because, like, it's okay to be like, you working on your relationship.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Because
Yeah.
there's this stigma about talking about working on a relationship because it's outside. It's so personal, but then why are you wasting your
Yeah.
time thinking about a man? Why are you wasting your time thinking about this woman? Get
Yeah.
to this bread. Like, we have this because I know I'm the last person to talk about how much I love money and get to
Mhm.
the get to that
Yeah.
point. But understanding your love life, understanding that one thing that you touched upon about breaking down barriers has been so important to me, and as a man, so I can only imagine how important and hard it can be from a woman's perspective to allow yourself to let those walls down and allow someone to come in and
Yeah.
love you the way that
Yeah.
you need to be loved.
Yeah, and love them too. I think that, like, the other thing too is, like, Shannon and you, we all relate to this. Like, as what we always see is that when you get to a certain level as a Black woman specifically, now there's no time for, like, they're so high up that everyone's intimidated by them. They can't find a man. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
One, we got to stop saying that people are intimidated by Black women. Like, that was something me and my therapist was talking about. But people be like, me, my therapist, like
Right.
the meme.
Right.
But, like, let's stop putting the point of dissension on the woman. I'm not intimidating. That person is either insecure, they're emotionally unavailable, they
Woo.
are not, like, but it's not on the woman. Like, people
Yes.
could be intimidated. That doesn't mean I'm intimidating. Like, we can be soft, we can be like, all those things. So I think that one thing I want to make sure that I do is, like, I start to get more visible in my job and have this, like, these titles where I have to talk on, like, boards. It's like, think about you just as much. A companionship is just as much of this life as a dollar is.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say this whole I don't want to call it an interview, a podcast episode. Like, I'm just looking at you, and me going to therapy and doing pretty much equivalent to what you're doing. It's so beautiful to see the glow of Black women,
Yeah.
and you're glowing. Like, and you can see the internal. You know what I mean? I said that before, but it's like you can just see the internal work that you're doing, and it's exuding out, whether you know it or not. You definitely, your spirit is just taking all over this episode, and I love it. So,
Yay, thank you. It was so nice.
Sapphire, where can people find you?
I mean, you can find me. I do have a website, sapphirestubs.com. SAPPHIRE stubs STUBBS.com. It's just like a landing page. It has my reel on there and a contact. But you also can just, like, contact me through LinkedIn. It's open. You'll see my face. And it's Sapphire Stubbs on LinkedIn. You can find me there, or even my work email too. If there's anything, like, if you're a writer, a creator, Sapphire, my first name, I mean, my middle name, SAPPHIRE @racketmag.com. Racket spelled RACQUET, mag, MAG.com.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we appreciate you so much for coming on the show. We love and respect you, and we can't wait to see what you have next for us. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Not Your Enemy Speak Out Sessions. I'm your boy, Mr. Jared L. White, with the lovely Shannon Reynolds. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube page, the Not Your Enemy Brand, as well as our Instagram page, brand new Instagram page, the Not Your Enemy Brand. We'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.